Hello there, this is Rom Wills coming back at you with yet another video. Insecure Review, Season 5, Episode 1. Reunited, okay? You know what? That was an interesting episode. But before I even get into that, I know some people will say, hey, Rom, you reviewing Insecure, this TV show and everything. For those who are not familiar with it, because Insecure hadn't been on for a while. But if you check the link in the description box, I have a playlist of doing Insecure reviews. I got several videos on it, actually, starting from season 1. And just to be clear, normally I don't get into like TV shows, but the thing is, there's so many relationship dynamics that I have spoken about in this sector that are on display in this show. Indeed, Master Teacher BGS had said in the past he felt like Issa Rae, the creator of Insecure, probably checks out videos in this section. I would not be surprised at all, or some of her writers, because some of the stuff you see, like, wait a minute, didn't we just talk about that? So, and just to be clear, the way I do reviews is more based on the character study, the archetypes, because people call it a comedy, and I'm just like, I can't remember once in 5 years of watching this show that I actually laughed. But when you see the character studies, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that's Mr. Goodbar. Oh, that's the nice guy. That's the masked man. It's like, oh, wow, okay, that's the jump off. Oh, that's the reason she's going for that Asian guy. Stuff of that nature. Oh, yeah, oh, well, yeah, she going down to have sex with, that's something to do, sex with a neighbor, or, Issa hooking up with TSA babe who doesn't look like that typical Chad. It's one of those things. So getting into this, and just real quick, because I know some people the last couple of years are used to me doing these with Miss Mocha Angel. She'll probably come in and do a couple reviews with me more towards the end. She's, with her job, she's just real busy. She's just real busy molding young minds. I'll leave it at that. So anyway, season 5, episode 1, Reunited. Now the base of the story, I believe they said it was 2 months since the last episode, since they left off. And there was a lot going on there. The main thing, Issa and Molly, they had a big blow up, and they, I guess they had started coming back together, but not quite. And that was a theme in the episode. And also Issa's man, who she had hooked back up with, Lawrence, got another woman pregnant. So it was just like, okay. So, but the Lawrence thing, that's at the end of this. Now, the interesting thing, they had a college reunion at Stanford. So, all of them met in college. And that was just interesting in itself. That was interesting because you got to see a little bit more about them. Like if we start with Issa, okay, the main character. Now, according to Master Teacher BGS's octane scale, she would be an 89. Now, she's a bit above working class, but she has that degree, particularly from a prestigious university, but didn't go as far as she could for a long time. Now, one of the themes of this season is her building her business and her being an entrepreneur. Now, there was an interesting scene in she was in the bathroom, like that's one of the running things of it. She has conversations with herself in the mirror, and the mirror is responding like a separate entity. And one thing, the mirror Issa was like, you and Molly started that law firm, would suggest that Issa might have had the ambition of being an attorney, at least for a little bit, but she didn't go in that direction, which is typical of an 89. They might have that intelligence, the degree, but they don't go as far as people think they should go. So, but the thing was, it was interesting. She was on a panel. She was on a panel of entrepreneurs from the school. Mostly, the panel had her, a brother, one, an Indian woman, and a white guy. And it's interesting because they had a question of them of what they were doing, and they were sounding all confident. She was like, she ain't sure if she's on the right path. And then later on in the episode, she was having a conversation with Molly, and she would say, yeah, she got this business, but then she's still like basically doing maintenance at this apartment she's living in. She's still doing Lyft, and she's still doing all of that. Like, she's still really trying to find herself. She's still really trying to find herself, and that's probably be a theme of this season. And that's a normal thing. And now, in all fairness to her, she was probably at that level where she wasn't living up to her potential. Now she's really trying. And you'll get a lot of women who are in that place, who are trying, but then a whole lot, they will just stick with whatever they're doing, not really realizing their full potential. So, make sure I wrote some stuff down, and, that's the thing. Now I'll get back to Issa and Lawrence a little bit later, because one of the things with this, like I say, this show is more of a character study in my eyes. Like I said, they call it a comedy. I haven't laughed in 5 years, because you're sitting there and you're thinking, wow, I know this person. Now, of course, there's Molly, they had a bit of a falling out. They still had some tension. They weren't like there until roughly around the end of the episode again. So, they were cool, they would talk, but not talk. It's like one of those things, you ever had that falling out with a person, and then you might call yourself squashing it, but it ain't like the same it had been before. So they still had that issue. Now, Molly, she's different. Now, she was a definite 92 octane attorney. That was her thing, successful and all of that. But her main thing had been the relationships. She was still wondering if she was being in her head about how her relationships had been. Now, last season, she had been with the Asian guy. And then, he basically was like, he was like rolling from that. It was just like, it wasn't good. Now, see, that's been her history throughout the series. She got this degree, she got all of this, all this stuff going on, but can't get that relationship right. And, like I said, it's a character study, it's an archetype, and especially Black women, and really increasingly many white women, women of other races. That's a big thing now. You got all these women, they got the degrees, they got all the success. They can't have that good relationship. So that's something to pay attention to. That is something to pay attention to, because that's the thing. And I guarantee you got women of all races identifying with it, and they trying to see, okay, how can this help me? One thing, as a professional writer, when you write stuff, even if it's fiction, you want it to also educate. So they're dealing with that issue. Now, one of the things that happened, she got there, at the reunion, met this, ran into his brother, who apparently they were friends with benefits. Now, from, you got two different things with that. Two different things. One, from how she was talking with him at first, how she was talking with him, she was like sounding like she gave more than he was taking. He was taking, but from her, definitely getting the sex, but she wanted more, the way she sounded. That's how it came off to me. She wanted more, but it was just friends with benefits. She was giving, but him not as much. But then later on, she was talking with Issa about it. And Issa was like saying to her, but of course it's from Issa's perspective, like, oh yeah, that's all she wanted from him. So one of the things I found with Molly's character, and this has been a constant theme, and it will probably be a theme this year. On one side, she had, one side she's this attorney, got all this stuff going on, and then wanted, but then in her relationships, it's like a totally different vibe. It's like she wants these guys, but never quite get them. If you look at her relationships, yeah, she had some, it was just sex, but then it was always something. The guy might have been married. The guy didn't want something. It was like, Now it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see how they bring this Amari guy back, because apparently he was showing some interest. But then she was thinking, and that's the thing with her. Yeah, she's intelligent, but she's in her head. She's trying to think, okay, because Amari had been married, she was trying to think, oh, wow, what did he do and all of that. And it was just like, You know, it was interesting. It was interesting. And another character, and this is interesting. Now they tried to play this for comedy, but I sat back and thought about it a little. I was like, that might be deeper. And this was Kelly. Now they went back to a reunion, but they had the school itself thought she had died. So in some ways she was invisible. Now if you look at the character who's played by, now one of the things, if you're going to really cast something, it's not just how well they act, but how they physically look. Now Kelly, she had always been the funny big girl. She had been the funny big girl. And shout out cousin T-Taw. Now, oh man, right now I can't think of what he would call her, but she was basically at the low point. She's like the enforcer of the, the social group of the women. She's not the queen bee or the top mistress. The queen bee is pretty much Tiffany. The queen bee is Tiffany. I'm gonna get into Tiffany in a second. But she's like the enforcer, the funny person, the woman who keeps everybody else out. But she was invisible. Think about it, they thought she was dead. She was basically a ghost. And that could be a bigger thing. Do they really see her? Do people see her? Or she just, are they, the guys she dealt with, it was pretty much like lower level guys who just wanted, sex from whoever. So I was like, man, yeah, they tried to play comedy, but I'm like, you know what, as a writer, I was like, man, that could be a deeper dynamic. Do people really see her? Because, they had kind of established she's kind of even though she has fun and deals with whoever, she's more of a 92. But people wouldn't have that perception if they see her. They'll think she just like, that lower level woman that somehow looked up into this other stuff. So I was like, that's something to keep in mind. So it's like that's a story angle just to pay attention to, because even through the first 4 seasons, if you think she was there but she wasn't there, so I'm like, okay, we'll see what's going on with that. And then there's Tiffany. Now I'm gonna tell you what, Tiffany's interesting because she ain't have any drama with her, and that really is very much a class issue. Now once again, the 92 octane. Shout out Master Teacher BGS for originating. That's pretty much like the corporate type of women, but also women who are more upper middle class. Now, the difference between her and Molly was that she had to climb from, more working class to get to that level. Tiffany was there naturally. And it's deep. I mean, if we're talking in a black community, she's light complexion. She's a member of the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. And, because one of the things that I thought was deep during the whole show, she wore the AKA colors. And she's the only one with a husband in a steady relationship. Child, steady relationship, everything's nice and peaceful. In fact, even when she interacts with her husband, it's more of a place of he's the man, he's the boss. And that's a deep thing. That's a deep thing. And also with the AKA thing, and they just threw it out a bit. One thing when any really good shows, any really good writers, everything's not blatant and over the top. I'm not gonna call any other popular shows or writers out. Let's just say one might be known for wearing a dress. But the thing is just the subtle thing. So what that created was a story question. Now, this was something with her and Molly, because Tiffany was like, oh yeah, I'm going to the AKA function. And she was like, hey, Molly, wanna come? I was like, what? Now, watching it, it was a situation. I was like, wait a minute, I don't recall any time her mentioning Molly might have been AKA. Now, even though she honestly doesn't look like the typical AKA, sometimes somebody moving up, they got the right connection, they can get into that. So that might add a little bit more to Molly's story, but we'll see. We'll see the context and everything. That'll be interesting. That'll be interesting. I didn't see that. I don't know. I don't know. But I'm gonna tell you what. Everything is something to pay attention to. Now we get to the final part. Now this should be interesting to pick up on, because remember, it was always a big thing from the first episode, Issa and Lawrence. And that, Y'all can check the link I shared of previous reviews I did of the show to really get into that, especially the first year. That was a major thing. That was a major thing, that relationship, especially when Lawrence at the season finale of season 1 had the back shot heard around the world. Oh man, if y'all see that, just put one in the description box. But it was interesting because when she was coming back, Issa was coming back. She was met at the airport by Lawrence and gave each other that little kiss. But then the thing to peep is, okay, there's still that Condola and baby thing still lingering. So they still traveling, they traveling, but they ain't really talking. It was like, it wasn't a good strain. It was kind of like a strained thing. And then when Lawrence got her back to her place, he asked her, did she want him to come up? And she was like, no. And they just kind of left it at that. And you knew what the situation was. So, it's like, okay, all right. And I would say overall, I like it because they setting up the story questions from a professional writer's perspective. They setting up the story questions. What the story question is, okay, will Issa make it to the top? Will she really get that business off the ground? And they showed previews of future episodes, and that's going to be a theme. Like really get her business off the ground, be able to do what she want, and then even hinted that some other guys will be in the picture, like Nathan will probably be back, and then another dude showed Issa kind of giving him that look, but then Lawrence is still there. So, okay, that's going to be a major thing. Molly, they just showed her with a haircut. They didn't really show a lot of other stuff, so I don't know about Amari coming back in there. And they didn't really show Kelly, because even in that, she's still kind of invisible. So, and then there was something with, even though everything looked good between Tiffany and, I can't think of that dude's name. That's invisible for you. There was some slight hint there might be some cracks in the mirror, in the armor. Everything might not be as perfect, just very slight. So, I think his name is Daniel. That's bad, ain't it? But anyway, I give it a very good, it's a good show. But I will say this, and I will maintain this. They need to kind of stop calling it a comedy. It's like almost to the point when they try to do comedic stuff, it's like, come on, y'all, just call it a drama and keep going, or at best a dark comedy. So anyway, that's my review and for this show, and I'll just get back with y'all later. Like I said, Miss Mocha Angel, she'll probably come in the later episode, sometime in December, and everything, or when we finish everything up. She's busy. Yeah, good person. So anyway, and get back with y'all. Peace and blessings.